people were sort of questioning why not, if you're going to take a game abroad, go somewhere where they don't already have rugby league as an established sport, or like give Toronto a boost or whatever. I actually think this is a really good, positive thing.
Yeah, it's not about building the sport, it's about building the three brands of Wigan, Hull FC and Super League in the biggest market for the sport.
Absolutely. And if that garners them more support, then it's a positive step for our game more broadly as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we're going to get a sponsorship deal out of it with the New South Wales government, with everyone all has seen Sydney.com on the back of the shirts now, and that's going to be through to the end of next year. So obviously there's something in it there for Wigan. Partnerships with Destination New South Wales and Destination Wollongong are all part of it. Like straight away, I know it's only like the local rag in Wollongong, but it was front page news that this was happening. And you're going to have, we know now, a repeat of the Challenge Cup final. Which means these Aussies will be familiar with the teams. They've got world-class players in the teams. When you look at people like Bateman and O'Loughlin and Tompkins and people like Kelly and Scott Taylor and
Tuivasa will be there.
People, it's great. I think it's great. And then there's players that have done well over there, like Gareth Ellis. If he goes around again next year, he'll be there. He'll be there. So I think it'll be absolutely cracking. And then obviously it's a Wigan home game that's given up, but Wigan club have said they're going to price the season tickets on 13 games, not 14 games, so the people blowing the top over that. I think our attendances suggest that people aren't going to a lot of games all the time anyway across the leagues. So taking a few games elsewhere, taking a game each for each team elsewhere even, I don't think it's a bad thing, because it just means that the people left behind at home can not have to spread themselves this thinly across the games if they can't go to afford to more to more games. You've got less games you have to pay for. And I think it is good at building the brands for those clubs and for the Super League, like you were sort of suggesting. I mean, what do we need? We need bigger TV revenues. We need bigger sponsorship revenues. We need bigger sort of merchandise. Bigger market for our merchandise and bigger sort of corporate partners and stuff like that. Where are they for rugby league? Primarily Sydney. Right. So you're taking our brands to the biggest area. You're going to get people interested potentially in following the teams or even just following the competition. It might give us a better bargaining position for international television rights. If they think, right, we can do this thing elsewhere. I think it's a stepping stone. I don't think it should be treated as the end game, and I don't think Wigan will see it as we go to Sydney next year and then we try and go to Sydney every year. I think it'd be test out how we can do there, then we can, if it's a success. If it's not, okay, we tried it, and what really harm has it done? If it's not a success, you can build on it by then taking the next ones to Perth or to, I don't know, New York or Boston or where, all these other places that you could think of. Dublin, very easy one. There's all these opportunities there, and it's opening out, but it makes it more. And we've talked so many times during the history of this podcast about sports being more about events now. And so, if you can make these events appealing to people and make them more marketable because they become a popular event in the calendar, just like the Magic Weekend is. I know the crowd growth has stagnated a little bit in the last few years, but it's performing a lot better than it did 10 years ago, for example. So, I don't know, I just think it's I think it's positive. So do you...
I couldn't agree more. I think it is a positive thing. I don't like this negative attitude where, there's just always... It's like you say, you can't please everybody all the time, but as soon as it was announced, I knew I'd be jumping on forums and looking at feedback, and it would just be, why are they bothering to do that? Oh, what about my season ticket? And this, that and the other. And that's fine. People are completely entitled to their opinions. In my opinion, there's very little downside in this for either club, because like you talked about, it's about brand association and bringing our product to the richest marketplace for rugby league. And if it's a success, it can only be good. And if it isn't a roaring success, it isn't going to do any long-term harm to our game. So why not try it, is what I would say.
Yeah, and I appreciate...
And then flesh it out if it's a success.
I appreciate the opinions of people who think it's not good for spreading the game because you go into an already saturated rugby league market. Now, Sydney has got a couple of games in the World Cup, but really it's not going to have any rugby league for 3 to 4 months. And this will be something a bit different and kick it off as a start. And I think people will have the appetite for for the game and something a little bit different at that point.
Well, the New South Wales government came in for a lot of stick during the whole bidding for games process in the planning for the Rugby League World Cup, didn't they? So, yeah, there isn't as many games being played there as you might have expected. So I think it's going to be. I think it'll be just the tonic, and it's just. Let's look for the positives. Let's look at the good stuff that this can do. And from another side of it, look at the money that we're going to be injecting into. As much as we're going to make money, there's going to be an injection into the local economy there. Hopefully, there'll be some investment from the people at Wollongong, and it can be beneficial. We start this ball rolling.
And other people might then come asking for you to go to their town,
because all of a sudden, 5,000 Englishmen rocking up and getting on it for a day or two in the sun to watch their teams play rugby league is going to be a very appealing prospect to a lot of towns this sort of size, because all of a sudden. Everyone's coming in and staying in a hotel, everyone's coming in and eating, everyone's coming in and having a beer, everyone's coming in and flying, everyone's coming in and renting cars. It's an injection. So towns will want this to happen to them if it's a success and we do it in the right way.
I think let's give it a crack, and if it fails, so be it.
Yeah. So from a positive story about rugby league to one that is universally negative, an employment tribunal has rejected an attempt from the RFL to have over 3/4 of the cases against them launched earlier this year struck out. A Leeds employment tribunal held a preliminary hearing if this is to do with the Bradford Bulls falling apart, isn't it? And their former employees coming after them for money that they feel they're owed, with 47 current and former employees of the Bradford Bulls launching legal proceedings against the old company, Bradford Bulls Northern Limited. The RFL and the new company, Bradford Bulls 2017 Limited, are fighting this. And a full 7-day hearing will now take place in January of 2018 after the RFL's attempts to throw out 39 of the 47 claimants' proceedings were dismissed by the employment judge David Jones. The governing body's legal team argued the 39 cases should be struck off in relation to non-compliance with the ACAS early conciliation process. That, however, was rejected. It has also emerged that in the hearing that current Bradford players such as Jane Chisholm and John Magrin are amongst the claimants, while former Bulls prop Adam Sidlow is the lead claimant. He was in attendance at the tribunal on Wednesday. The claims revolve around issues such as wages, holiday pay, notice pay and statutory and potential statutory redundancy payments. So it's a continuing mess.
Now, we should have got an ACAS specialist on, but what do you think? How serious could this be for the new entity? How much of the claim is against them? It seems like most of the claim is against the old club and the RFL, one or the other, or both combined in the way they went about the processes. But some of this has to carry on to the new club too, you would think.
Well, from what I understand, the new club is not legally liable. Because whilst they bought the rights to the badge and the colours and the licence from the RFL, they're not legally responsible for the debts accrued of the debts that the old company accrued. So the issue, I think, is more these claimants going after the RFL and trying to get some of their money back, which they're perfectly entitled to do and have a go at. But I'm not sure they must feel they've got a legal standing to have taken it this far.
The judges clearly recognise that they do by pushing forward with it to a formal hearing and taking all of the charges through.
He's not going to kick it out that early doors in case it comes back to him on appeal. So that's the reason I think he's allowing it to go through. But it seems to me, from what I understand of the legal proceedings, and someone better educated than me may well set me straight, but my understanding is that part of the whole problem, the problem I had with the whole debacle back in January, was that a new club, in theory, has the ability to start again with all the debts wiped off. Now, some of the other stuff that the RFL put in place for the new club, I have issue with as well, but that, as far as I'm concerned, is a case of Bradford Rugby League having to take its lumps a little bit. But if the legal system decides that they have a case to answer, and the legal system decides that they can make a claim.
We're going to have to take this call, Tom.
All right. Well, like I say, if the legal system decides they can make a claim, then fair play. All right, so you've taken a phone call, and we're back.
It was about Challenge Cup final ticket situations.
There you go. Fair enough. Okay, no problem. I wasn't going to pry into your private correspondence, mate, but fair play. So that's the Bradford Bulls. Oh, Bradford Bulls in financial mess? Shocker, I guess. So we'll see.
Yeah,
it's all like water back now for me, right?
People get what they deserve, but at the same time, I hope it doesn't eat into the RFL's money too much. I mean, we found out that they distributed a lot of the profits out between the clubs that were made in the 12 months up to the end of 2016, didn't they? Yeah. What wasn't spent on Nigel Wood's wages. That's been the big story out of it, hasn't it?
£315,000 a year.
What's remote? I think the thing about that figure that's remarkable isn't the amount of it, because I would suspect that governing body, people who run governing bodies of most sports will be similarly highly salaried.
Yeah.
What I think is the most surprising part of it is you would think there's not many, if any, players in Super League paid that much money a year.
No.
That's the standout thing from it. I wouldn't expect in other sports that the biggest star names are paid less than the biggest belted fat cats of them all.
Fat cats indeed. Okay, someone who could do with a fat cat. Worries over the immediate future of Swinton Lions have been eased with the news that an outstanding debt to HMRC has been paid. Supporters have raised more than £30,000 in total to help clear the debt by the end of the month, with further fundraising continuing to ensure the club can continue until at least the end of the season. Sources close to the club confirm that the situation is much more positive than it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. On the field, a rare win at Odsal against Bradford lifted the Lions out of the Championship bottom 2 last week, and they are set to open their Championship shield with a trip to Batley this coming Sunday.
Yeah, I think it's positive news, isn't it? I think the sort of comments coming out after the game against Dewsbury, where there was a big fundraising effort and that sort of stuff, were all, this is looking better now, and they've reached 200 in the 200 club, which means that was I think a 10 grand thing. They raised a lot of money through some charity events and meals and dinners and speaking and that sort of thing. So I think they've done a good job to get something somewhere along the way there. I think that's good.
Yes, it certainly is. Mitch Allgood has left Wakefield by mutual consent with the early termination of his contract. Allgood is understood to be returning home to Australia with his family. His time at Wakefield was interrupted with injuries, with the prop recently missing 6 weeks out on the sidelines with a hand injury. So good luck to Mitch Allgood back in his homeland. Huddersfield Giants have signed Salford forward Adam Wall ahead of the 2018 season. The 26-year-old has signed a contract with the Giants despite having a deal on the table to remain with the Red Devils. So he's obviously decided that his future lies away from the AJ Bell.
He had a great start to the season, I thought, Walton. He was one of the players that was surprising me with how good he was playing for Salford early doors, and it was kind of out of necessity with Griffin being put into the back row to kind of make up the numbers when they had some injuries in there. But yeah, I would have thought maybe they would have fought harder to... But he's not played a lot of late. I don't know how much of that's been injury troubles, but interesting.
Yeah, there you go. Whitehaven have confirmed that player coach Carl Forster has signed a new 2-year deal with the club. Forster is 25 and was appointed as the club's head coach ahead of this season and has guided them to a second place finish in League One at the end of the regular season. So, successful year. And a well-deserved extension, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the youngest coach around, isn't he?
By some distance as well. Fascinating.
But he's not done a bad job. Obviously, not the result he wanted this weekend. But you know, they're still in top contention for a playoff promotion final place in that League One Super 8. So he's doing a decent job.
Certainly is. Oliver Gildart admits that he would be open to representing Italy at this year's World Cup. Gildart qualifies for the Azzurri on the strength of his grandfather Bob, who was born in Italy, so I presume his name is Roberto, and admits he would have no problem playing for them at this year's tournament if it came to it. However, he admits his first goal is to try and earn an England call-up, but that he would be fine playing for Italy if not.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that you feel a bit awkward about, innit, in terms of... I think it'll be good for Italy if they had a player like Oliver Gildart in the side.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he clearly...
has aspirations elsewhere.
Doesn't that? Which is the right thing to... It's the right ambition for him to have.
Well, I think he should have that ambition as well, to play for England, because he's certainly good enough, in my opinion. It just remains to be seen whether Wayne Bennett thinks he's big enough.
But the bonus of the system that we have is he can... be available for both, and obviously you want the best players available for each country playing, I think, in the World Cups. Now, I get that they can't play the rest of the time around, but it all has, we think, a positive effect generally.